Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to this Q&A session regarding the BBT Biodynamic Breathwork and Trauma Release Training. It's great to have you on this call, and this call is also going to be recorded and sent out to people who are interested in the training. So welcome also to everyone who is watching this via the recording. I'm going to take just a few minutes to introduce myself so you can understand who I am and why I'm speaking with you today. My name is Prema McKeever. I am a somatic therapist in Vancouver, BC, and I am part of the faculty for the Biodynamic Breathwork and Trauma Release Institute. My background is actually, I started off as a body worker, and then I transitioned into Chinese medicine. I was an acupuncturist and herbalist for many years in San Francisco and in Dallas, Texas. And then during that time, I got very interested in trauma. I got very interested in trauma's impact on the body and what it does for our long-term health. I was working a lot with chronic illnesses, syndromal conditions, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, and chronic pain, of course. So then I really started exploring what is trauma, what's happening with our body and how can we best heal. And so that journey into understanding trauma and how to support people to restore their health, to live a better quality life, anxiety, depression, all those things, led me to biodynamic breathwork and trauma release. And I trained as a practitioner, thinking I was going into it to support other people, which I was. But in the end, the benefits that came from my own body and my own health greatly shocked me. I had not even realized how much my own trauma was limiting myself. And it's been one of those gifts in my life that has made an enormous difference for myself personally, my relationships, my physical health. And it really opened up a whole new understanding, really, of myself and what I wanted to do. And then since then I also trained in somatic experiencing. I'm a somatic experiencing practitioner, and I've trained in many other modalities of body-oriented psychotherapy, such as Hakomi, internal family systems, and many, many others. And so that I'm part of them as a teaching faculty of BB TRS. I co-facilitate the live week-long in-person trainings that we have in Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And then I'm also one of the teachers for the online training. So I am here today, and I'm very happy to be here today. I am here today to answer questions about our training program. Some questions were emailed in beforehand, but I'm also hoping that those of you who are on the call here live have questions, because I really like interacting live with people and answering your questions. And we'll go from there. Okay, great. Wow. I see some people already putting questions in the chat, and I will get to those. Oh, fantastic. Those are great questions. I will get to those. And I would love to just see first, if people wouldn't mind writing in the chat, I'd love to see, like, where are you joining us from? Where are you from today? And also, if you could write in the chat too, like, are you interested in this? Are you coming here because more for your own personal work, or are you also interested in working with other people with breath? Yeah, maybe just type into the chat where you're coming from and what brings you here today. Personal work, or because you already work with people and you want to add to your skill set, or you're interested in finding out breathwork for the first time. Anything you'd like to put in the chat. Yeah, and just let you know, in this recording, it'll just be me showing up on the recording. So even if you unmute later and talk, you won't be showing up. Only I will be seen on the recording. Yeah. That's great. So I'm reading here. Okay. Canadian living in Switzerland. So breathwork has been fantastic for you. And you want to add, some people want to add to their work with their clients, personal transformation work, and to work with other people, personal and professional. Okay, great. Just reading through what's coming in here. Yeah. From Spain, from Prague. Yeah, personal and professional. personal work, finding a pull towards making more of your life and helping others. Somatic psychotherapist, movement facilitator. Great. So there's really a wonderful mix here all over the world: Estonia, the UK, Switzerland, Mexico, Nova Scotia, Norway, Nigeria. Wow. Edinburgh, Scotland. Somebody who's already a transformational breathwork facilitator and want to expand your knowledge and experience. Argentina. Yeah. Oh, great. A coach, and you want to add more trauma-informed modalities for your clients. India. Fantastic. Oh, wait. Okay. So you're all in the right space. So I think first what I will do is I'll give a general outline of our program structure, and then I can go through some of the details of it. So Bulgaria. Okay. So we offer 2 different tracks for learning BBTRS. We have both in-person, 1 week in-person. It's about 10 days if you go to the Bali one. In-person experiential workshops. In our in-person workshops, trainings, you are guided through the entire body over 7 days. And each day you are both giving and receiving a breathwork session, a BBTRS session. And it's beautiful because in these 7 days, you're working through all the different layers of the body, and it's quite a transformational week. Anyone can join any of the in-person trainings anywhere in the world at any time. There's no prerequisites. And some people do an in-person before they go to the online training. Other people go to the online training first. So we have the in-person tracks, and those happen Mexico, Canada, United States, Poland, Bali, Estonia. Those are the main places, and they're taught by and Australia as well, and Bali, I think I said. And those are taught by different people. They're taught by Giten, Nisarga, Dana, myself. Elke just asked where in the US. This year, it's not in the US in August. It's going to be in Canada with Giten and myself, August 20th to the 27th, just outside of Montreal. And then next year in November, it'll be in Colorado, November 12th to the 19th in Colorado. And that will be up on the website very soon. And then in Poland, it's at our beautiful center in Kiko. And you can see on the website where they're all located. No, Elena, I am not going to. In Europe, it's Giten and Nisarga. I won't be there in Europe for the in-person 1 week training. I'm here in this side of the planet. Yeah, yes. But Giten and Nisarga are the ones who offer it in Europe. So that's the in-person. Again, it can be just for your own personal experience. You don't have to want to learn you don't want to be wanting to take this because you want to bring it out into the world and offer it to people. During the week, you will learn how to give sessions, because each day, like I said, you'll be giving and receiving sessions. But many people, at least half the class generally, comes to those in-person ones because they want to have a week of diving into themselves, diving into their breath. They're there primarily for themselves. And that's why I first started too. My first in-person, I had no thoughts of offering this as anything. I knew that my body was pretty locked up and I had trauma in my nervous system that I needed to release and work with. And so that's why I joined the 1 week training, and it just blew my mind. And from there, I went on to do the entire program. So, and also so that's the in-person. I'm going to circle back to it in a little bit, but I'll leave it there for now. The next track is we have our online program. So our online training, the next one will start September 20th. And people who take our online training also can come because they either just want to do it for their own personal experience, or they want to do it because they know they want to offer this work to other people. Now, the online training, because it is online, is a lot longer than 1 week. The one in September is going to start September 20th, and it's 3 modules. The online training is made up of 3 modules. The first module is kind of like the fundamentals, the foundation of the work. You start learning about a lot of the principles of trauma release, why we do what we do in BBTRS. You start getting an introduction to the breathwork system. You start to understand the body. So that's module 1. Module 2 is really focused on the session exchanges. Each week in Module 2, you give and receive sessions during the class period of time. You're being supported in breakout rooms by the mentors, and you learn through Module 2 how to offer a full online breathwork session, which is very cool. And then Module 3 is more about business development and learning about a little bit about how to facilitate groups and some of the contraindications and safety considerations. There's different, more practical information again to close up Module 3. The online training runs for about 4 months. So for instance, the one starting this September is starting September 20th, and it will finish on January 7th. So Module 1 is 4 days in a row in September. And then Module 2 is every other week, starting towards the beginning of October and ending mid-December. And then Module 3, we take a break over Christmas. Module 3 is 4 days in a row in January. And you can get the full schedule of the online training on the BBTRS website. And I'm going to find that link here. If you go to this page on the BBTRS website, you can see a lot of the overview of our training, and you can also download the full schedule for the online training. Yeah. Elena's just wrote, in October, I see that you will be in Poland for 1 week. Is that a totally different training? So that, and Elena, in Poland is going to be, it's a special skills workshop. And that is open to anybody. And it's about working with developmental trauma, not with breath, but learning other body-oriented skills. So Mateo, I see you're asking me to please answer your question. There's been a lot of chats coming in. I'm not really looking at, so I don't see your question right there. Maybe if you want to private chat it to me, I can see it. I don't see it right now. So the one in October in Poland, Elena, is a special skills workshop that's open both to BBTRS students and people who are not in BBTRS, other breath workers, coaches, therapists, and it's teaching you the patterns of development called the Reichian character structures and how our early development was influenced by experiences that we had in childhood and how we develop body armoring in response to those experiences and things that we can then do to help support people to melt that armor and to be able to get back in touch with their feelings. And then side question, are there places left in your October workshop? I believe there is. You would want to ask the person who is organizing it, and I will get that information over to you. They would know for sure, but I believe there still are some openings in that October workshop. It's called Healing Developmental Trauma. And yeah, give me just a second and I will have that for you as well. So now our online training, like I said, people can take that training. There we go. That's the link to the October group I'm leading in Poland on the character structures and body armoring and somatic approaches for that. So the online training is also, like I said, can be for people who just want to take it for their own experience. And if you just want to take it for your own experience, it's a beautiful 3 to 4 month weekly working through your body. You're also going to receive a lot of education around trauma, around our body and breath. So it's wonderful for you to get to understand what's happening inside. So there's both an educational component and a highly experiential component. Now, the online training, of course, is also for those who want to become certified practitioners. Everybody who wants to be a certified practitioner in BBTRS takes the online training. Again, you can do an in-person first if you want, but at some point, everyone who wants to become a certified practitioner takes the online training. That's the core foundation of our training module. So, and then in that online training, you also are giving session exchanges. You're receiving sessions from mentors. There's a lot there where you're learning in your own personal growth. So people who just do the online training, they become certified as an professional online practitioner. If you want to be certified to offer both online BBTRS sessions and in-person BBTRS sessions, you take the online training plus 2 in-person trainings. So I'll repeat that. If you want to be just an online practitioner, you just take the online training and you complete all the requirements that are part of the online training. If you want to be certified to offer both online and in-person BBTRS sessions, you take the online training plus 2 in-person trainings. Yeah, does that make sense so far? And those in-person trainings can be taken anywhere in the BBTRS world. So Kansu asked a really important question. Are online trainings also recorded to be able to watch later if you miss a session? Yes, but you're only allowed to miss 2 sessions. So it's because it's really important to be there. You can't learn if you're not there. And so, yes, you are, the online training is recorded, but we do ask people to commit to being there. And so that you are able to miss 2 sessions, watch the recording, you write a short little makeup paper. It's like a 2-page reflection paper talking about your experience, and then you're certified. So any other questions right now about the training structure that I've talked about? And so I'm going to go to the yes. So Malika asks, is there supervision mentorship as we practice leading breath work through the training and afterwards? Absolutely. There's supervision and mentorship for sure. So in the in-person trainings, we have assistants. We also have the facilitators there, and we're in the room walking around, guiding you as you're offering the sessions. We're giving hands-on support right there. When you are in the online training, you have mentors, and you also have the trainers there, and you're giving your practice sessions in breakout rooms, and we're going into those breakout rooms and we're observing. We're there for support. You can call us into your room at any time. You can ask questions. You're also in the online training put into something called buddy pods. And those buddy pods meet throughout the training, and they're an additional level of support. Every buddy pod has a mentor, and they are there to also support you throughout the process of the training. So there's quite a lot of supervision and mentorship that happens throughout the process. And those buddy pod meetings are happening throughout the whole 4 months, and they continue even after the training is over. In addition, for anybody who's been through the online training or the in-person training, we have twice monthly Q&A calls with the faculty that are open to everybody. And so you can come online to any of those Q&A calls and get your questions answered. So Lisa asks, oh, let me go back to Jonathan's question. Is the training available in English only? Okay. So in Poland, we have, the training is sometimes also, because of like usually about half the class, sometimes less in Poland, is Polish, and they don't speak English. We do have often interpreters in the trainings in Poland to support the Polish students. Jonathan, for the one in Montreal, we don't have interpretation happening. We don't have an interpreter there. So if you have questions that are difficult to ask in English, if it's only in French, we will be having many Quebecois assistants there, and also other people in the training. And so they could help translate if there's a question you wanted to ask during the training that was difficult to put into English. So there will be people there who are bilingual that can support you in that. Okay, let me ask Jennifer's questions. How many people do you expect to be in the live training person in Montreal? Oh, Lisa, I'm sorry if I missed a question. Oh, I see. Okay, Lisa, let me back up to Lisa's question, then I'll go back down. If you do 1 week in person for personal reasons, but decide to pursue certification afterwards, how long do we have to continue the training? Great question, Lisa. We ask you to complete everything within 24 months in 2 years. The work does evolve and change. And so if you do 1 week in person for personal reasons and then decide to pursue certification afterwards, please complete the rest of the training, which means the online program and 1 other in person within 2 years. And then, how many people do you expect to be at the live in-person training? Yeah, so that's really based on the size of our venue. So in Montreal, we're expecting probably no more than 30 people because of the size of the group room there and the mattresses and making sure we have space for enough people. It's one of our smaller venues, so we'll probably have a maximum of 30 people. Jonathan, that's a great question. Have you seen examples of students using this training in a leadership, organizational development context, which is your area of expertise at the moment? Somebody actually just contacted me about that the other day. They're wanting to bring this work more and into leadership. I don't know every BB TRS graduate, so there very well could be graduates who are doing that type of work. I think it's a really rich potential area to tap into. It's not an area that I have much personal experience in. I'm a private practice clinician. I lead groups, but I think there is a lot of potential to bring this work into leadership and organizational development areas. And we and BBTRS would absolutely support you to do that if that was something you were interested in. Do I know if the hours can be recognized via the ICF credentialing, the Coaches Federation? No, we are approved. Our hours are approved for continuing education credits for the National Certification for Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork, the Bodywork organization in the US for body workers. So the hours of our training do count, that are in person, only our in-person count for CE credits for the NCB TMB, but not for the Coaching Federation. Yeah, well, Jonathan, it's a great question what you asked there in the chat. Yeah, maybe Jonathan, email me. My email is prema@premamckeever.com. Please email me your email address. So Aura asked, just to clarify, there are 2 in-person trainings to be certified for in-person certification. And is the online work compulsory or for the in-person certification or not? It is compulsory. Everybody who wants to be certified does the online training. So if you want to be certified to do just online work with people, all you take is the online training and you complete all the requirements of the training. If you want to be certified to offer both online and in-person sessions, you do the online training plus 2 in-person sessions. Yeah. And then you can take either one, in-person trainings or online trainings, just for your own experience. You don't have to want to become certified. And if you do that, if you do the online training just for your own experience, there are less requirements to fulfill, less hours that you have to fulfill for the training. Somebody just asked, will there be another online training after September? Yes, there will be, but not this year. So we just completed one that started in February, and then the next one will be September. So I'm guessing the one after that will probably be February again, February of next year. Yeah. Any other questions right here? Once certified, is there a community? Oh, okay, let me back up. I see I missed a few questions. I am wondering about more of the safety protocols with this body of work. Is it safe to engage this work with somebody experiencing ongoing trauma, CPTSD folks? Yes, so Liberty, that's a really important question. That's a lot of what we teach in the online training is how to know if it is work is appropriate for somebody and how to safely use it. I would say there obviously needs to be some level of nervous system regulation on board before you engage with breath work. You know, if somebody is in a very hyper sympathetic fight flight response, adding breath and going into breath work is not going to be helpful. And in fact, it would be counterproductive for them. So you might work with other skills that we teach in the training, such as working with resourcing, working with grounding, working with other ways of connecting to ourselves, different meditations that we teach throughout the training. That might be more appropriate to start with somebody with CPTSD, and then you build in the skills to eventually start to work with the breath. So we do teach, we teach how to work with a wide variety of people. And we have had many psychotherapists actually who go through our training who do work with CPTSD and who work with breath work in that. So it also depends on, I would say it also depends on your skill level. So if you're somebody who's already trained to work with somebody with CPTSD, which is chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, then this would be something you would be able to weave into your current offerings in a way that would feel very integrous, because you already have training and working with this. And if you do not have prior training working with CPTSD, I would say you need to be a more experienced practitioner before you can start working with people whose nervous system has been that impacted by trauma. I hope that answers your question. Please feel free to write in more if that doesn't answer your question. Jonathan asks, once certified, is there a community for grad students, for instance, where people meet up, chapters in specific cities, etc.? So we have a private Facebook group just for graduates. And in that Facebook group, people are always posting, where I am, I'm going to have this event, or anybody want to come support me in this event, or they're asking questions, things like that. We have grads in many of the major cities in the world. Smaller regions of the world, not so much. It kind of all depends, but there is a community there for people to reach out and connect to one another. And the people you go through the training with, you end up becoming quite close to. Malika asked, once certified, are there opportunities to become part of the BBTRS faculty? I love that question. So in addition, and I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, because there's actually, I almost don't even want to say this. So there's actually 5 different tracks for the BBTRS training. So let me just run through these real quick. The first track is when you just do an in-person for your own experience. We've already talked about that. The second track is when you do the online training for your own experience. We've talked about that. The third track is when you do an online training because you want to be a certified practitioner and you complete all the requirements, all the practice sessions, all the things that are part of the training, which you can read about on the website. That's the third track. Online, because you want to be a professional who delivers this work to other people. Fourth track is when you do both the online and in-person trainings, so you can deliver this work both online and in person. And then the fifth track is when you want to be able to offer individual or group sessions and BBTRS workshops in your area. And that's an additional about 100 and maybe I think about 130, 160 hours additional training in how to lead groups. And then yes, as our work is expanding, we need to bring on more trainers, more workshop facilitators, things like that. And so the faculty would be people who have gone through all the trainings, who lead workshops, and are more involved in the community. And I foresee that happening more and more in the future because this work is expanding. Breathwork in general is greatly expanding. And so there's quite a few people out there who lead a lot of workshops in BBTRS, but we also want to really encourage people to lead workshops in BBTRS. And what we do then, if you're doing that, is we will promote it on our website. We'll put it on there because we want you also to have your work out there. We want to support you in your work. And so we have a new website that's actually going to launch on Wednesday. It's quite unfortunate that it's not launched already because I was really hoping to have it today that I could show it to you in this call, but things are a little delayed. But they promised me on Wednesday, the new website will launch. And so if you go to our website on Wednesday, you will see a lot of this information and you'll see all the really interesting things we have there to support people in their work and their offerings. Any other questions from here? Okay. So I am debating between using a more trauma-focused approach to leadership development versus building resiliency in leaders and not using trauma language at all. However, I wonder, as more trauma is released via the body, is it fair to say the individual becomes more resilient to stressful situations? That's incredibly fair to say, yes. Or once a lot of work has been done on releasing the trauma, a different type of breath training can be used to focus on resiliency of the individual. Oh, that's a beautiful question. So resiliency has to do with the amount of information or the amount of stimulation our nervous system can take in while staying present and centered and focused. basically how much stress can we handle before we go outside of what's called our window of tolerance? How much stress can we withstand? Some of us have a very narrow window of tolerance where just a little bit of stress can take us outside of that window of tolerance. We lose presence, we lose focus, we lose our ability to relate to others, we shut down, we overreact, we lash out, all these different things. And some of us have a wider window of tolerance. And this is based on kind of the load that our nervous system is carrying. And that is based on the amount of trauma we've experienced in our life and how our nervous system developed as children. So I would say, as trauma is released, we build our resiliency. As trauma is released from our nervous system, one of my teachers said something really great once. He said, stress is just a polite word for trauma. Our nervous systems cannot distinguish between, to a certain degree, cannot distinguish that much between highly stressful events, like stuff that happens in the business world all the time, and traumatic events. And the ongoing stress that people face in life, it puts an ongoing load on our nervous system. So the more we are able to release that stress from the body, the more resiliency we then develop, the more we have capacity then to respond to situations from a place of more of our medial prefrontal cortex, which is a place of calm, focus, connection, and attention. So I hope that helps. Resiliency can also be affected, neurotype sensory sensitivity. Absolutely, absolutely it can. So that's how our nervous system is developed. And so I appreciate you putting that in, Liberty. Any other questions? This is turning into a really interesting conversation. Much more than I was expecting in a Q&A about the training program. So I think I'll go to some of the questions that were emailed in. Let me turn to that page real quick. Okay. What is the level of online interaction and in-person interaction when doing the training? Okay, I think I explained it, but let me go into that a little bit more. So this training is built to be experiential. You are going to get a lot of information, but that information is mostly delivered in video format. I created several video series for the trainings on anatomy, physiology of breath work, understanding trauma from a nervous system level, as well as a developmental level, and then also training on body armoring and character structures. It's a lot of dense material. Nisarga also created great videos on body work and touch for helping the body to open and release. That is all on video because we want you to be able to take that information at your own pace. So you can stop, pause, rewind, watch again, all of that. We want everyone to be able to go at their own speed and being able to digest more of that cognitive material. The training itself is experiential. So that's why you're doing a lot of session exchanges, both so you can be observed and supported as you're guiding in sessions, but also so that you can then understand what it's like to receive the work. You learn just as much as by receiving as by giving the work. And so throughout the whole entire process, you're never alone. If you're in in-person training, we're in the room as well as the assistants, guiding and supporting. You can call us over at any time. We're circulating around, we're coming in, we're saying, take a look at this, notice this, try this. If it's the online training, you're in your breakout rooms, we're always floating in and out of the breakout rooms. You can also call us in at any time. So there is a ton of one-on-one support while doing the training. Vicky just asked, why can you only practice online rather than in person if you've only done the online training? Because in the online training, you're learning the skills of how to work with somebody online. You're not learning skills of hands-on work. When you're doing an in-person session, you are physically touching the person you're guiding. You're physically using your hands through the muscle system to help open up the armoring with touch. And that can only be taught in person. So the online training is to teach you how to guide and work with somebody online. The in-person is there to teach you how to work with somebody's body in person. So that's why you can only practice online if you've done only the online training. Another person wrote in a question, From when can you start introducing the breathing into your one-on-one practice? That's a great question. And then I just see Amelia's question here I'll get to in just a moment. So when can you start introducing the practice into your one-on-one practice, breathing into your one-on-one practice? So if you want to become a practitioner, during the online training, part of the requirements for completion is to complete 35 sessions, give 35 sessions outside of the class time. So these are people, this could be friends, family, clients, people you know who are willing to let you practice on them. So we actually want you to start those right away, right during beginning two. I'm sorry, the second module. We want you to start being able to offer those practice sessions to people. So we ask you, I think it's the first 20 of them we ask you to give for free. And then I think it's the final 15 that we say, yeah, you can start charging a student rate for those. And then many people who already have a practice of working with people, if you're a coach, if you're a therapist, you start bringing in elements of what you're learning right away. And we want you to. That's how you really learn and solidify it. So every week you will be learning things that you can start practicing immediately with the people you're working with. So really appreciate that. Amelia asked, can this be used on children? If so, what age? So that's a complicated question. If you already are trained in working with children, if you're a child psychologist, a therapist, or there's some, and it's something that would be within your scope of practice, I would say, yes, you can start adapting it for children. If you're not trained to already work with children, it's not advised. A couple of reasons. One, children don't have a level of emotional maturity. And I'm talking children, I'm saying under the age of 15, 16. I'm really talking adolescents. Breath brings up a lot of emotional material. Children don't always have the cognitive and emotional maturity to understand what is going on for them. There's also the issue of consent. Can a child really understand and give consent? So you would absolutely need the consent of the parents. And I would say you'd have to have the parents in the room. If you were going to use it with children, very short periods of breath. Children also don't need a lot. They don't need a full hour session to open up their bodies. They have a lot more access to their emotions, depending on their age, usually, and what's happened in their life. But if you're somebody who works with children already, you can absolutely bring elements into the training. Tura, I just saw it's you. I haven't seen you in forever. It's so nice. Okay, so I hope that answers the question about children. Great. Lisa asks, what are the key differences between BB TRS and other breathwork methods? So I haven't studied every breathwork method out there, but I'll give you a basic rundown of my experience and understanding. So what I really appreciate about BB TRS, it is really a trauma-informed breathwork modality. It's not a modality of lay down and breathe and breathe and breathe and breathe. We're not trying to induce catharsis. We're not trying to induce altered states of consciousness. What our breath modality is about further embodiment, creating more space in the nervous system, releasing stress and trauma from the nervous system so we can be more here and present. Couple of reasons. One of the things that makes us different is we use the principles of titration and pendulation. Titration and pendulation are two key principles that were really brought forth into the trauma world by Peter Levine and somatic experiencing. Titration meaning we work with small amounts of activation at a time. In BBTRS, we do that too. We work a lot with resourcing, working with small amounts of activation at a time, not going so full on into charging breath, and then pendulating back into resource. So we're moving back and forth between what's called the trauma vortex and then the resource or counter vortex. So we've adapted some of the principles that are used in somatic experiencing, but for a breathwork modality. We use touch in a way that we use self-touch, a big focus on touch and working with the armoring. Not all breath schools do that. The sitting up is another thing because we want people to be more present and in their bodies. And so they can actually feel and move through what's there. Laying down and breathing and going into an altered state of consciousness is wonderful in many ways, but that's not the focus of what this school is about. This school is about embodiment and trauma release. And for that, we have different ways of working, like sitting up, working with unwinding, working with touch, titration, pendulation. And I haven't looked at every school out there, but I think we have more education and training on working with trauma than other breathwork schools. Again, I haven't explored everything out there, so there could be something that I don't know about out there, but I think our training is incredibly comprehensive, and I'm very proud of what we've created. Okay. Thanks, Liberty. Echo. So let's see here. Does the training discuss how to modify the practice with individuals who are pregnant and/or have other health conditions? Also, does the training address ways to be mindful providing the breath work for gender expansive individuals? For example, if there is dissociation towards specific body parts. Okay, so I'm going to break that down to two questions. The first part on pregnancy. We really do not recommend breath work in the first 3 months of pregnancy. The rate of miscarriage is high enough as it is during those 3 months. There have been no studies shown that breath work is dangerous during those 3 months, but there's also no studies showing that it's safe. So just to err on the side of extreme caution, we really do not recommend breath work in the first 3 months of pregnancy. Past the first trimester, when things are more stable, it can be used, but we really tone it down. We really bring it down. We work a lot more with gentle movement, unwinding, a much gentler breath than even what we normally work with to help support. There's also the issue of how much trauma release do we want to work with while somebody's pregnant? Because when we release trauma, those stress hormones go into the mom's body, and those stress hormones cross the placenta and they go into the baby's body. So we don't focus heavily on trauma release during pregnancy as it is, because we want to keep the stress levels low in the mother's body. So we would use it more in building resource, building connection to herself, her heart, building connection to the baby, gentle unwinding, but not during, not for like a strong trauma release. Now, second question, does the training address ways to be mindful of providing the breath work to gender expansive individuals? For example, is there dissociation towards specific body parts? So we definitely discuss dissociation a lot during the training, dissociation and disconnection. Do we talk about it specifically in context of gender expansive individuals? Not necessarily. We're talking about it more as a state of the nervous system, and that can be applied to anybody, whether it's an issue of gender expansiveness, whether it's an issue that arises out of trauma from whatever reason. So we talk a lot about dissociation and disconnection, and what we teach can absolutely be applied in that area. Somebody wrote, what if the process does not work? Can you write a little bit more? I'm not sure what the question is. Yeah, not everything works for everybody. If it did, we'd only have one form of therapy in the world, and my life would be a lot simpler. So yes, unfortunately, not everything works for everybody. I wish it did. My God, wouldn't that be great if we knew there's just one thing that worked for everybody, and then we could just, us as therapists and coaches, we could study that, and then that's it. Yeah, unfortunately. And it's an interesting question. What does work mean? I think everything's a learning experience. What does it mean for something to work or not work? I might be getting a little philosophical here, but I think there's something that can be learned in any experience. And I'm not even sure what we would call working. For me, healing is a journey. And we spiral around, and we discover this and we discover that, and we learn this. I mean, I know when I think back to honestly, when I started breathwork, I hated it. Not BB TRS. BB TRS was the first breathwork I found that I really liked. But before that, like in Pune, where I've known Tura, I remember doing some tantra groups with breathwork, and we're just breathing and breathing. I'd pass out. I literally fell over and fainted once in a breathwork session. And I did not like this kind of cathartic, hard pushing breathing. That didn't work, but it taught me something about my body. It really didn't work for me, and I still learned from that experience. And when I found BB TRS, something that I felt more alive and present and centered in after experiencing it, I was like, whoa, okay, this is also teaching me something about my body. Was one experience more pleasant than the other? Absolutely. But I learned a lot through both of them. Let me go back to the questions that were emailed in. Okay. So, okay, here we are. Okay, and then somebody wrote, how relevant is it to attend a breathwork training week if the primary goal at the moment is self-oriented, i.e. to release trauma and tension in a sustained way? I think I've talked about it, but it's very, very relevant. Because like I said, particularly for our in-person trainings, I would say at least half the class are people who are coming just for their own experience. They have no intention of ever laying hands on another person, but they want to spend 1 week breathing and opening their body. And that was definitely my own experience when I started. Okay, Lisa asks, would you be willing to share some positive and/or surprising benefits you have observed in participants during the 1 week training? Oh, wow. That's a sweet question. Yeah. So I think part of the tension in our body, that body armoring, it's there to keep stuff down, to keep it out of our conscious awareness. And we just have these patterns of acting out in the world. We have these patterns of relating. We think it's normal. We think, oh yeah, I feel kind of disconnected, or I'm kind of a shy person, or yeah, I don't do this, or I don't do that, because that's just the way I am. But when we start to open up our bodies and get into contact with the armoring and then the feelings of what's underneath it, and then we can start to process those feelings, we start to discover there's all new capacities. I'm thinking of the last BBTRS training Gitan and I had in Mexico, the beginning of the year. There was a woman on the final night who we were doing one of the final sharing, and she came over and she whispered to me, and she goes, can I have the microphone just for a moment at the end? I just want to say something. I'm like, yeah, sure. And so at the end, she took the microphone and she said, when I was a child, I loved to sing. And then I think she was just when she was like 14 or something, her mother said something to her about her voice. And she goes, and I stopped, or about her weight. I forget, it was either her voice or her weight. And she said, I stopped singing. She goes, but this week I have found my voice again. And she just took the mic and she just started singing Amazing Grace. And I'm getting goosebumps recalling this. She started singing Amazing Grace a cappella. And it was incredible. She was a mother of 2 children in her mid 40s. And she hadn't let herself sing in 30 years. And releasing that trauma and that shame around, and again, I can't remember if it was her voice or her body, I'm sorry, but it just opened up something so beautiful. Then she could share this gift of hers and she felt so alive. Yeah, and so it's just, and there's all these little things. I mean, it doesn't have to be that dramatic, but people who get connected to their body. I mean, and this is not necessarily in the training, but a lot of the women that I've worked with, experience difficulty having pleasure during sex, feeling really cut off and disconnected from their sexuality, or even the sensations of sexuality, and then being able to feel more pleasure during sex and being able to feel orgasmic during sex. I mean, these are all the sort of things that start to happen as we can open up the armoring in our body, more connected to our heart and feelings. All of a sudden, we start feeling more safe and connected, and oh my God, I belong, and all sorts of things like that. So I hope that answers your question, Lisa. Elena, this is an important question. Does BBTRS work for addictions from your experience? Thank you. Woo, that's a biggie. So addictions is a big category. If somebody is active in their addiction right now, I would not suggest BBTRS at the moment. Really, they would need to, I think, let me feel into this for a moment. Again, addictions is a big category. So I'm running the whole gamut from drug addiction to shopping to sex. And it's a kind of a too broad of a category for me to wrap my head around right away. So the root of, as Gabor Mate says, the root of addiction is trauma. It's a sense of disconnection. It's a sense of loss. It's a deep pain inside that's attempting to be healed, covered up, numbed out, bypassed through the addiction. The addiction is a symptom of something. And it's a symptom of extreme disconnection and often trauma. BBTRS, I think, can be a wonderful support. Would I put it as the primary modality to work with addiction? No, I wouldn't. I think there needs to be more. But I think as somebody has already getting support and working with their addiction, they start to understand, they start to be more regulated, there's less using, then you could start to bring it in. Yeah, to start to open up and deepen the connection to themselves and doing some of this inner healing work. One of the things I really appreciate about BBTRS is because it works almost in two different realms. We're working with embodiment and staying present and feeling our bodies and feeling our feelings. But there is also the realm where we're able to go into deep unconscious material, things that were hidden and things that are more difficult to access than you would through traditional talk therapy, even SE. I mean, I'm an SCP. I practice SE all day long. I've been using it for years. I love it. But BBTRS can get us more connected into the unconscious material because of the way the breath works, and can actually quicken the healing process, in my opinion, can quicken the process of understanding and getting into what is the pain, but can support us to be with it in a very present, regulated way. So I hope that answers the question. It's a very nuanced, I think addiction is such a big category. There's so many, it's like a continuum. I can't give a straight black and white answer for that one. Jonathan wrote, there are some sessions at times that take me a while to process, integrate, and make me tired for days following. Yep. When I think of a week of training, I wonder if I could pull it off. Are there students struggling with this at times? It's different when you're in a group because there is a group field. There's a group containment. And you would be in, that's why I love group work. I love group work. And group work, I think you can process and move through so much in a shorter period of time. It would take you a year in individual work. And I really think we are meant to heal in groups. Yes, we have to do individual work because we don't live collectively anymore. We don't live in a society, but to do intense work and really move through stuff, group. And so no, I haven't seen that I haven't seen that in the in-person trainings. People can move through a lot in 7 days because of the container and the support. It's also nice. You're in a retreat center, somebody else is cooking for you. You have people to hang out with at meals. It's just a wonderful, wonderful environment. So there's a lot more that you can process in those 7 days. You have about 5 minutes left. Jason, okay, how applicable do you find this form of breath work is for neurodiverse people who may find it hard to feel their feelings and where those feelings are in their body? Yeah, it's our responsibility to meet everybody where they're at. And I know when I started breath work, I really was I didn't know how numbed out I was until I started BBTRS. And then I just started to come out of that numbness and that dissociation. I had been an acupuncturist for, 15 years. I had been doing yoga, meditation. I had been involved in all this other work, path of love. And it was all part of my healing journey to really land me more and more in my body. So yeah, we don't know what the limits are for somebody, and we don't know how much the brain structure and nervous system structure will influence that, but we meet everybody where they're at, and everyone has their experience, and their experience is good enough. It is their experience, and there is no like, this is what you need to feel, and this is how you need to be able to identify it in your body. If you were just there for the online breathwork session I gave before this, you may have noticed that I offered people the chance to find a resource in their body, and if they couldn't, to think of one in nature. And that's because a lot of people can't find a resource in their body, and that's fine. That's fine. So we pull in something else. It's not a problem. Yeah, great. Let me go to Fiona. Oh, I am concerned about the vomiting that was spoken about in Giten's book. Is that common during the in-person training or online work? I've never, let me see. Wait, I was about to say I've never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen. I think, no, I think maybe once in an in-person training, it did happen. But this style of breath work, we're working a lot with titration and pendulation. And so there are very more cathartic types of breath work where that is much more likely to happen. It's not that it's wrong, but it's not so much likely to happen here. Maybe I'm kind of scanning through my memory. I think in, the 10 years that I've been involved with this work, maybe a couple of times I've seen it. I don't think I've ever seen it in the online training. Yeah, I think maybe a couple of times in person. It's not a regular thing. And I wouldn't let it happen. I wouldn't let it, yeah, I wouldn't don't be so concerned about that. You've had that happen a few times with breathwork online and in meditating. It's been so liberating. Jonathan, wow. Okay. Some people are more purgeable. Yeah. Okay. Yes. And yes, everyone, I'm just getting messages from people who need to leave. No problem. This, I think they're going to slightly edit this talk, because I think I went all over the place. I'm guessing. But, recording will be sent out to everyone. Magda wrote, do you recommend to go for SC course after BBTRS, or BBTRS covered enough and SC is not necessary anymore? Ooh, I don't know. I almost don't want to answer that question. I'm afraid I'm going to get in trouble with somebody. But, I think it's completely your own personal preference and how you want to work with people. You can work with people just through BBTRS and you don't need the SE training, and vice versa. It all depends on how you want to work. SE does not work with the breath. They don't manipulate the breath. They don't work so much with movement the way that we do. They don't work with sound and all that. So it really just depends on what level you want, who you want to work with, what is the population you want to work with, and what type of work you want to do. And that's a very personal decision. So let me just quickly go back and make sure I got through all the questions I got emailed. Requirements and training schedule. Last question. So the training schedule, again, is on the website. The online training starts September 20th. In-person trainings are happening all the time. Next one coming up, August 20th to the 27th in Montreal with Gitan and I. Come join us. Requirements, there are no prerequisites to be in the training. There is an application to fill out. We want to make sure everyone who's in the training is in the right place for it. So if there's been a recent, psychiatric issues that you've experienced, we may want to have a call with you first to make sure that it's going to be the right place for your nervous system at this time. But there's no educational requirements to be part of the training. We really take people from ground zero all the way through all the hours of video educational material, reading material, and just developing your skill as a practitioner, as a therapist. So, okay. Oh, one more question. Maybe sensitive question too. Thanks, Alina. After being certified, do I need to use BBTRS in the name of my work, or can I develop my own? That's a great question. So if you're doing BBTRS, we ask you to please use BBTRS. And you're also going to want to, because we will also have you on our website as a practitioner. As people can find you from our website when they're looking for a BBTRS practitioner. If you're going to develop your own work, we ask you to change at least 80% of the material before naming it your own thing. Yeah, we've spent years and years and years developing this work in a very specific way, in a very unique way. And it's part of honoring the practice and also honoring yourself and the people who have gone through this training. If you're going to, we welcome you to develop your own modality, but then have it be your own modality, meaning that you've changed at least 80% of it. And then it's really more of your own modality. So, okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us today. It was great to see you. I appreciate our time together. I hope I was able to give you the answers that help clarify the structure. Again, our new website will launch on Wednesday. I really highly, highly, highly recommend you go there. Everything will be outlined very clearly. And you can always write into our office if you have any further questions. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.